Hello.
Hey, I'm
Hey.
Sam,
I'm Matt.
and we just watched the finale of the X-Files revival miniseries. My
Yeah.
Struggle, Part 2.
Ah, exciting. Exciting. I didn't know Hitler wrote a sequel. I've been really waiting to make that for a few weeks. It's been building up.
I gasped a little.
It's been building up because it was like, you see it and it's called My Struggle. It didn't really hit me until it was also the title of our YouTube video. I was like, wait, that's what Mein Kampf was. It's called that's a terrible name for an episode.
Whose struggle is it anyway?
His. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the guys.
Okay.
The narrator. It's Chris Carter's struggle to write a cohesive X-Files story.
So, first thoughts?
That ending.
Yeah. I think it's kind of weak.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk. I want to talk about the lead up to the ending really quickly because, like a lot of two-parters, this feels like half of a two-parter. It all feels like a build-up to the ending.
Mm-hmm.
So, the story is basically the conspiracy has infected everyone in the world with anthrax and every other disease and such.
By
And
weakening their immune systems through magic.
AIDS without HIV.
Yeah.
Okay, and
As they say, or as Joel McHale says.
yes, and I really thought Scully said that.
No, it was
I
Joel
think it was
McHale
Joel McHale.
talking to the science expert
Oh yeah,
on
yeah.
the show.
Yeah. And everyone with alien DNA is not going to die, but other people are going to die.
Which was a nice switcheroo after all that alien experimentation stuff and the abductions.
And it turns out that was a good thing.
Yeah, the people getting abducted are getting tampered with to like cancel out the earlier tampering.
Yep. So that
Which is great because it immediately directly flips the scale. The story is now as big scale as it seemed small scale before. As it could not help but feel small scale when it's just, maybe a few hundred people are being unfairly experimented on, or maybe it's 1,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
But and then you immediately flip it. No, everybody but those 1,000.
Yeah.
Although that's probably not every. Not every experimentation was about that, but maybe potentially some of them.
Yeah, aliens, it's obviously part of the problem with scale is always that the world is not enough. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To make a story feel important.
Well, I don't think in this case.
In this case, it works. So I was saying this is something that
Yeah.
was done right. Is that the world felt important
Yep.
because we got invested in it, and then we got invested instead. We thought our heroes still have a bad result if they don't save the world. That Scully is alone in the universe with Monica Reyes and the cigarette-smoking man. So it still sucks. Basically, they're going to infect the world and murder them with super AIDS, and everybody is going to die of super AIDS, but everybody except Scully, because Scully has the cure for super AIDS. It's her DNA, and she needs to figure out how to get everyone the cure.
So tell me, why is it that she is immune? Is there something in her genome? Maybe alien DNA? Which is something she says approximately 100 times in this episode. And it's great because it's Scully saying it, so every time I just blink a little, I'm just...
Yep. Yeah, you'll be a little more used to seeing it if you were watching seasons 8, 9, and 10 where she's more of the Mulder.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the Mulder, I forgot who Monica Reyes was, which is weird because she was the main character for 2 seasons. She was the Mulder to Agent Doggett's Scully.
Okay.
She was the
Who is
one,
Agent Doggett?
He was
He was Mulder's...
He was sort of a Mulder replacement where Scully became Mulder for a while. Scully's the believer and he's the skeptic. And then Monica Reyes came in to be this sort of hippie love child believer. So she's a very different person here. Because this is not a happy hippie love child.
Didn't surprise me because I have no idea who she was.
Yep.
So, I mean, I didn't even get a sense from the the episode that it was someone I was supposed to recognize from seasons I hadn't seen. I was just like, yet another behind the scenes G-man, G-woman.
Yeah. So, the story, it all leads up to Mulder was offered a chance by the cigarette-smoking man to not die of super AIDS. But Mulder refuses to...
Fuck you.
Mulder refuses to ask the cigarette-smoking man for the ability to not die of super AIDS. And then Miller saves him, and we thought maybe Miller was going to be evil for a moment, because he sneaks into Mulder's office and searches and finds him, but it turns out he was good.
Yep.
And Miller saves Mulder, but Mulder is still dying of super AIDS, and everyone, Miller included, has super AIDS. Also, Einstein has super AIDS. Everyone has super AIDS. Everybody's got AIDS and shit.
People who are forgetting, Einstein and Miller, of course, are basically younger Mulder and Scully from last episode.
Yeah.
And so you should go into it feeling like they are basically Mulder and Scully 10, 20 years before.
Yeah. It's Mulder and Scully in the premiere, basically. Think of it like that.
Mm-hmm. The original premiere.
Yeah, the first premiere. The first time this show was...
Ever existed.
Yeah. But it all leads up to Mulder is in the car. This is really bad. It's always going Sculder and Mully, and now I've got a Miller as well.
That's a painful...
So Mulder is in the car with Miller. Mulder is way more dead of super AIDS by this point, but not totally dead. Like, he's really on death's door. And Miller is just really sick, like, is just kind of getting sick. And then Scully gets to them and she's like, I've got this cure for super AIDS, but it turns out I don't. Like, oh no, Mulder is too dead. We need our son's stem cells to cure him of super AIDS. And that's what we will do.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, why don't we do... Miller's like, why don't you do that? Then she's like, I don't know where our son is. And then an alien spaceship flies over them and shines a light down on them, and she looks up and it zooms in on her eye, and that is the end.
Yep. So, yeah, this is supposed to be the conclusion of the miniseries. So,
a miniseries we were told was...
Self-contained,
and that we haven't been told that there's going to be a season 11.
So this is my introduction to X-Files. I am a hypothetical person.
Yeah.
I watched all 6 episodes faithfully because I heard that the series was good. And then I am introduced to a thing that the series actually did quite a bit back in the day, which is end on a cliffhanger at the end of a season. But it feels way worse. I don't know. It feels about as bad as it always does.
I'm going to disagree.
Yeah?
Because... you got on, like, I'm kind of looking at it from the fact that it always ended on a cliffhanger, but it always ended on a cliffhanger of a TV show that has been renewed for another season already. That you can say, come back next season to see the further adventures of Mulder and Scully. So it feels a little like an annoying cut before a two-parter. And it feels like an annoying two. But it's not that much different. It's just you have to wait a year for the next part of the two-parter instead of you just have to wait a week.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, it's like, as far as the audience, know, and maybe there was an announcement there's going to be a season 11, which will be much more justified in my mind then, although they would have had to have been planning on doing this still, like, because it surely wasn't shot expecting...
Well, shot it 2 weeks ago or whatever, whenever you heard that news.
Yeah. Like, it was, so, it's... And we don't know even if Mulder has agreed to come back, which, of course, that is actually part of why I think sort of the first famous season-ending cliffhanger, which was Star Trek episode, I don't remember what it was called, but it was the big Star Trek Next Generation fight with the Borg where Picard becomes Locutus.
Okay.
And they didn't know if Picard was coming back. They didn't know if... So, with them not knowing if Picard's coming back, it ended with a cliffhanger. But here's the thing about something like that and a well-done ambiguous ending. Because I'm very hyped to talk about ambiguous ending.
Okay.
Because there's a difference, I think, between an ambiguous ending and just a pure sort of fuck you cliffhanger. And this, I feel, felt like more like the latter. Because an ambiguous ending has a question that is left ambiguous but satisfactory. So, even though having an answer would be meaningful, either answer means that a story has, and whatever the answer is, it feels like an ending of a series of events. For example, I was saying The Sopranos. The Sopranos had an ambiguous ending. It ended with us not knowing if Tony Soprano got shot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, however you feel about that, whether you feel like it should have been like that or not, either Tony Soprano got his ending, and he's continuing on with his life that's on the path we would have expected from before then, which is one perfectly acceptable way to end it. Or Tony Soprano was shot by an assassin there, and that also feels like a fitting ending to that sequence of events.
Mm-hmm.
Or in that Star Trek two-parter, and it was actually called...
Mm-hmm.
In the end of that thing, where the entire story arc up to the cliffhanger ambiguous ending was partly are they going to defeat the Borg, but partly does Riker have the strength to command? If Riker has, so it ends with the Borg ship has evil Picard on it, and they've got an anti-Borg weapon, and Riker says, and it'll blow up the ship, thus destroying Picard, and it ends, and Riker says, fire! And that's the ending. So, there's the question that's left ambiguous. It's not just what happens next. Like, sort of what happens as soon as this show cuts off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what could be we know there's a few possible options. Your possible options are either Riker, blows up the Borg ship, and Picard dies, of Riker, or the gun doesn't work or something, and they save Picard. One way or another, that's satisfactory. I mean, I like an ambiguous ending,
Maybe they shot the gun out of the Borg ship's hands.
Bing, bing. But, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I love a good ambiguous ending. It was a very common way to end an Animorphs book. There were questions like, did Rachel kill David?
No, not David.
There was some ad that kept talking about a guy named David.
No, I don't even mean that. I just don't know who David is. So.
There was a guy called David.
Poor guy.
Rachel may or may not have killed him. What was the cause of the fire that kills Visser 3's brother? In the hypothetical alternate future, does Jake save Cassie or the world? All of these are questions which, whether you feel either answer is good or not, it feels like a natural progression from these events. Here, we're not given something where I can leave this and feel like I've been told a complete story.
Mm-hmm.
Because this wasn't ambiguous, it was a cliffhanger. What is the purpose of this alien ship? I kind of haven't been really given thematically or character-wise or information-wise a set of options.
I think that was the key, and I'm very interested in thinking about the question. The key to have made that ending work was to make this the most important prototypical alien event that had been coded into all of the X-Files, such that we felt that we understood that it represented either a promise of someone coming to help, like maybe the sun somehow is in there, or the promise of them getting killed.
Yep.
Because the promise of them getting killed is there in episode 1 of Mein Kampf. Excuse me, my struggle. At the beginning of this season, of this miniseries, where that happens, and then she gets blown up in her car. That witness, and we even have that in the recap.
Yep.
So that we wouldn't forget. So that half of it is there, but we don't have the other half. Them getting blown up sort of makes sense. But what is the other thing that feels set up? Nothing in particular.
What could it be?
Yeah.
Where, sort of, if this ship doesn't blow them up, what's going to happen? Because in The Sopranos, you have a general idea of the trajectory of Tony Soprano's life. If Tony Soprano doesn't get shot in the head, you know what happens. So, if the alien ship is not going to if the alien ship is not there to blow them up, how does this conclude this series of events, and who's on it, and what are they going to do? I don't know. Either it blows them up, or nothing, or it's just an alien ship that is going to continue the plot somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no character arc throughout the episode that I feel got completed by the end, such that the ending does not feel like a promise of more. The ending feels like a question of, and then da 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 da.
I mean, I feel like we're being told, yeah, your story will finish some other time, maybe.
Yeah, we're getting Scheherazaded.
Yeah. Yes!
Because that's...
Blatantly,
except I don't care about the answer that much. Because, I care. If it comes back, I'll be happy to see it. But, Scheherazade did this so she wouldn't get killed.
She didn't do it because the person who was, enjoying her stories enjoyed it more that way.
Yeah. She was intentionally trying to end it stupidly. So come on.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake, and a weird one, because they... we'll check out the rumors. I didn't notice that there were any rumors of a season 11 or whatever, but it didn't... either way, they certainly wouldn't have known that they were confirmed for another season. There's no way that the executives would have green-lighted this 6-episode miniseries to test it and then just given them another season before the season even started airing, right? That's the whole point of a test.
Yeah, not unless this miniseries did incredibly.
Mm.
Because, Gallivant got... Not Gallivant. Lucha Underground is already renewed for a second season.
Mm.
That was true before...
Is it coming out?
No, a third season. So.
Okay.
That was true before the finish of episode 1. Or before the finish of episode 2. We knew that it was...
Of season 2.
Of season 2,
okay.
Yeah. Before 2.
Which, of course, is not an analogous situation.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you're talking about, people can make a decision with this limited amount of information, but, the story should still have an ending. I mean,
what I'm saying... I don't think we're in disagreement.
Yeah, I'm not arguing. I think we're in definite agreement.
But, they wouldn't have known that season 11 were going to happen before they shot it.
Yeah.
So, there it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a problem. I'm down to ignore it from now on because I feel like there's nothing left to say, unless you have something left to say.
I can't think of anything else to say about it, no.
Mm-hmm.
But I can say, I think that as far as it being a piece of the sort of... It will factor into my judgment of the episode. Mm-hmm. It almost overwhelms my judgment of the episode. Because nothing else really that important seemed like it happened.
Mm-hmm. As far as, where I am, I saw 3 seasons of the X-Files, the original series, and I've seen this miniseries, so that's my frame of reference. This is one of by far the best myth arc episodes that I've seen. In that things are happening and there are stakes. In the first 3 seasons of the X-Files that I saw, it was nothing but obfuscation and avoiding any real revelations and avoiding any real stakes because the conspiracy will just not kill them for whatever reason.
By the end of season 10, the myth arc has advanced, and we know what it's about, and we know what they're doing.
But yeah, by the standards of the myth arc episodes of the first 3 seasons, this was a much better thing, and I was pleased to see, maybe you grew tired of it after 6 seasons of it, or whatever. I was pleased to see X-Files tackle a global thing that's really getting out of hand and feels important and scary.
Nothing that big really all happened, I think, that scarily until really the finale that didn't feel like there was that immediacy of stakes.
Mm-hmm.
But there definitely were stakes. It wasn't,
For sure. The immediacy of the stakes in this episode do so much for it to make it much better.
It did not really do much for me, I have to say.
It's the thing that sets it apart.
The immediacy of the world stakes, but
yes,
the world is not enough for me. I care about what, I I mean, I care about, like, Einstein and Miller and Mulder, but ultimately, the only, like, I like the world, it's where I keep my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But just telling me the world's about to end, they managed to actually make it feel like the world was about to end, but they didn't make anything except the feeling the world is about to end. Sort of, how to put it?
But I mean, it's totally acceptable to have the world about to end, because then, if it's convincing, we can feel the pressure on the protagonists of knowing that the world is about to end. So I mean, that is valuable. It's not like it has nothing to do with the characters.
Well, yeah, and that they did manage to put good stakes on the characters, especially on Miller
Einstein's
and
dying.
Miller and Einstein are both
Miller and
dying,
Einstein and Mulder are dying.
But like, here's the thing: is like, how do I put it? I didn't know. The end game is just okay. The end game, I guess they're clearing the human population for the colonization.
The villains.
Yeah, the colonization by Greys, whatever. But like, I don't know. I don't feel like anything happened in this episode.
I mean, that's the big problem. The reason why the ending is such a deal breaker is because that was the point where
Something was
all
about
the action happens.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. I am totally interested in seeing how we manage to distribute this small supply of vaccine, in quotation marks, that cures something.
They did call it a vaccine.
Yeah, that cures something a disease that they've already caught. But, you know, how they're going to go from that small supply to curing the whole world.
But will they be able to get the vaccine for Mulder against guns by removing a bullet from his chest? He doesn't have a bullet in his chest, but that is the way they are using the word vaccine here. So, but
like, it needed to be like a double episode, and then all that setup was super tense, and I'm ready for the story, right?
Yeah, I still almost wonder if we just turned it off too early.
Yeah, we checked the TV guide to make sure that there wasn't.
And it did say Lucifer was after that, right?
Yeah, it did.
We're 100%.
And then Lucifer started.
You're right. It just feels so weird because it's like you needed to do something. It's, you know, we complained about in Doctor Who how often their two-parters felt like setup and then the actual episode.
Yeah,
this felt like the setup to the actual episode.
Mm-hmm. Same mistake.
And the episode's about to start. But because it felt so much like the setup, sure, it was good that they were setting up these stakes, but I can't really give them too much credit because they didn't do anything once the stakes were set up. All they did was set up the stakes.
Mm-hmm.
And they managed to make me believe it was important, but that just made me more annoyed that they didn't do anything at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, this was not like, I can't say, I feel like this was an okay setup for a continuation. I can't give it credit for that until I know that you were that there was already, you were told that there's a continuation coming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe that is official. Maybe it just hasn't been announced. I don't know. But until I know you're continuing, I don't. You've just set me up for nothing and then ended it with a fuck you cliffhanger.
What I want is, I want the X-Files series to have not been a big enough success to get more, and instead, Chris Carter, determined to finish the story, makes a stage play and gets Duchovny and Gillian Anderson to be in it. I would almost prefer that. It would be so
Actually,
strange.
that sounds really cool. I want to see this now. I'm down. Or what if the character he makes little YouTube videos with like little paper drawn cutouts? Oh no, Mulder!
Doing his best best and terrible impersonations of Duchovny and Anderson.
Oh no, Mulder! We don't know where our son is, and he's the only one who can save you.
Man, There's so many options, Chris Carter. You don't need to bring it to television. There are places you can go with the X-Files.
Like YouTube!
So, yeah, let's see. What else is there to cover?
It's really partly actually, I can't give it full credit for that until I know you have a plan for your continuation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of it. But
I do feel my grade's a bit in flux too, or my opinion in general. But let's see, great traffic jam scenes, crowds of people, miserable, confused. I mean, it makes a difference for the episode that we're going to see, maybe.
Yes, but it doesn't make much for this one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sort of does. I sort of have to account for it, but I sort of can't, right? What a position to be in. I need to reward their effort for the episode that's going to follow this, and also I shouldn't.
I'm not going to reward their effort for setting up nothing.
Well, then that would make it an auto like 1 out of 10 or something.
I'm willing to give it a 3 out of 10.
Well, let's talk grades at the end. So, let's see. I like that we have Einstein and Scully teaming up. It's weird. It adds to the sense of strangeness that Mulder and Scully are not hanging out. That Mulder's got his own quest. Yeah. And it adds to the tension that Mulder is acting weird and he doesn't have a speaking line until like 30 minutes into the episode. And of course it turns out he's sick, but I know I didn't put the pieces together until a little later because...
I will say, you know what? I think would have salvaged this episode for me if it had been focused more on Mulder and the smoking man.
Because I think they needed to, and they wanted the Mulder smoking man conversation to be the climax.
Yeah,
but I just don't care that much.
Well, they didn't put it at a time that felt climactic. It felt like still part of the building action. And here's the thing for me. The only thing that was accomplished as far as the story goes was the story of Mulder and the smoking man here. Mm-hmm. And that is Mulder was given a chance to save himself and he continuously rejected it while he was dying. Mm-hmm. And then, and then Miller showed up and helped him. And that should have been the built-up moment of the episode to allow a continuation, because then it would be ambiguous for me. Is Mulder going to die? Is Scully going to find a way to save him?
Are you saying that they would cut where exactly?
Okay, so this is my sort of hypothetical version of this episode. Much more focus on Mulder's journey through it. Scully figures out the cure earlier, and she and Miller go to take it to Mulder. But the primary action of this episode, sort of switching what the primary action is, the primary action of this episode is Mulder and the smoking man. Not quite a two-man show, but it's the main thing. And throughout that, we're cutting back to them getting there, and then it ends with Scully being like, oh, no, our vaccine isn't enough anymore, he is too sick. Then what are we going to do? And then you don't even necessarily get as much of the rumble of the airship. It's just you see this ship coming in and approaching them, and even before it shines the light on them, because then I'd feel an ambiguous ending of, is Mulder dying, or is this ship going to save him, or is this ship going to kill him? And maybe put a little build up to the idea the ship might be there to kill him.
What's the difference between that and the ending they have already?
Partly it's the placing and how much... I never felt Mulder was confronted with a choice. Really, they didn't give enough. They didn't build that enough through the story of the temptation of surviving.
Yeah,
there was no.
That's true.
There was no Mulder. Mulder never felt tempted. Mulder never felt like he'd gone to the smoking man, and the smoking man was actually giving him something that he would not, he would actually consider not turning down.
I mean, that's the weird part of the episode, because Mulder's not in it very much. We don't feel very much in his head. So we're not feeling his desperation to survive. I mean,
Or,
if he had a desperation to survive, how cool could this episode potentially be?
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm saying, is that the ideal form of that, the difference is the focus is on Mulder and on saving Mulder, and all of this end of the world stuff is happening around them. But
I'm sure they could shorten the end of the world stuff.
They can shorten the end of the world stuff. They can get Scully towards Mulder instead of Mulder having to get in the car to go to Scully, and they'd have less of Scully trying to figure out how to save them.
The focus of the episode could be on not just Mulder and the Smoking Man just sort of chatting, which is honestly what it usually amounts to, but a more focused, deliberate attempt by Mulder to interrogate him, to figure out the truth. And
at this point, I think the Smoking Man's happy to explain the truth, and Mulder knows a lot of the truth. Yeah.
True, the Smoking Man may not actually believe there is a solution to the problem.
So,
but you can make it so there is a solution that he knows about and Mulder can't know about.
Yeah, I would say instead of it being an interrogation, I'm fine with it being them talking, and their talk is around the lines of, I can save you, I want to save you, but you need to X. Or like, you need to just say, I want you to save me, that's all I'm asking from you.
But I mean, it could be the counter current to, Mulder's trying to make the conversation about a solution to save everyone, and the Smoking Man is like, you're wasting time.
Yeah, that is an option.
Yeah, the procedure could be happening right now, but
Yeah, that's an option, but like that is another way to do it. I'm thinking that I don't even need that. I just need to see Mulder.
And he's dying.
Yeah, I need to see that. I need to see Mulder feel tempted. I need to feel like he is fighting a battle that, even if he isn't winning, something can be accomplished by him losing.
Smoking Man can pull out like these crazy emotional lines, like, oh, it's a shame about Scully never seeing you again, and your son, like, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and like
and who's gonna catch like Bigfoot or whatever? It's gotta be you, Mulder.
I don't think you're gonna say that, but like a few like focus more on Mulder's desperation, and he doesn't need to win for me to feel some sort of victory in how he lost. For example, I'm going to mention the ending of Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man.
Sure.
Which
don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay, so he's Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. It's been all about Cigarette Smoking Man. He doesn't want to be made of evil, but he's constantly being made of evil, and throughout we are seeing also the lone gunmen are talking to Mulder and Scully about they found this information on the Cigarette Smoking Man, and we see Cigarette Smoking Man has Frohickey in his sights. And Frohickey's the one who got this information. And we see him, and then they walk out, and he's got the gun pointed at him, and he says, but instead of all this time sort of fighting against being who he is, he ends it by saying, I can kill you anytime I want, but not today. So, and then he puts the gun away. And that is a win, even though he is still made of evil. He is still absolutely the evil. Here's what I want to talk about the Cigarette Smoking Man in this episode.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of weird because throughout the original show, we gradually learned Cigarette Smoking Man is not that important.
Mm-hmm.
In a good way. He is sort of the only member of the conspiracy willing to actually kill people. It's sort of like the conspiracy, all of the conspiracy knows that they have to do what they're doing, but only he sees it as morally right, and only he has like the sort of the ability to do the dirty work.
Because the rest are too squeamish? The rest are too scared of being compromised?
The rest are too like important, hands off, we are the businessmen, and we are the politicians and you're the general, basically. Mm-hmm. Although he's really, he doesn't make a lot of the decisions. He's just told, you need to go kill this guy. Or you need to go hide that information. And that...
Oh, go tell Krychek to go find this guy in the woods. There's no one there. We're just sending him there on a prank.
But it does lead to an interesting dynamic of him being the only one who seems to think what he's doing is important. Everyone knows it's important, but sort of like morally right. Not just like it's what we need to do, but it is morally righteous to do this. And that was an interesting thing, but they've sort of restored him to the place of the devil. He is the king. Mulder's in his chair at one point. He's like, I'm sitting on the king's throne. So he is now, this episode says, the leader of the conspiracy.
Yeah, it feels odd, because, even from my perspective, 3 seasons, he clearly wasn't going to be the leader, or else why was he just sort of hanging around?
Yeah. But, he feels important to the conspiracy. This feels a more fitting place than him being, the henchman, I think. He was never important. He was never, the most important member of the conspiracy before. But it feels... The first 3 seasons, I could see him eventually reaching the point where he would be the leader of the conspiracy.
Yeah.
Whereas after seeing him... an episode where they're, I don't remember all the episodes, but seeing him in a lot of the later episodes, I never thought he would lead the conspiracy. I thought he would at most get to be, third in command of the conspiracy. So putting him on this place sort of feels appropriate, especially if you have limited time and energy and space.
In the episode?
Well, in the entire series.
Okay.
It feels appropriate to have him be the avatar of the conspiracy.
Yes. Because, he was.
He was.
No matter what his position in the conspiracy was, he was always its avatar.
Yeah, he was always... Although later we saw, even the conspiracy at one point was almost conspiring against him.
Poor guy.
But, so that was interesting, having him in this position. It felt more appropriate than continuing his previous position. I feel like I compare that a lot, in fact, to some of how the conspiracy revolved before that I said at the beginning in part 1 of Mein Kampf, where it was him, I was like, well, this feels more like where the conspiracy should have been than where it ended up. So I'm not going to knock it off for that. In fact, I'm going to sort of give them points for that. I liked his role in this episode. I always like William B. Davis's performances, but I especially liked it in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he served the role he needed to serve. It's just they needed to put more focus on him serving that role.
Let's see. Other thoughts. This time around, what's wrong with me? I can't remember the name of Mr. Funnyman from The Soup.
Joel McHale.
Joel McHale. Joel McHale is more useful this time around, despite not having a plot role per se after the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
In that he is a good measure for how well the world is doing. As you see him die, as he's putting on these his show, and weird glitches are happening because I guess
the man whose job it is to stop the internet from glitching is dead.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I guess that has to be it.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say, as far as overall a story, I don't care as much about the world, but I can give them credit for how well they set up the world as ending.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I don't care as much that the world is ending. But technically it was done, it was an impressive crowd scene. It was an impressive feel of the end of the world. I just didn't feel it personally.
Well, my point is only that this is because you don't have a strong character-driven story to go with it, to make the stakes important. But the strong character-driven story would be lacking either way. Whereas this is an element in place looking for that strong story, and so I think that it helps the episode a lot.
It certainly, as you said, it certainly increased my grade of the episode, but I'm not going to grade it as if I'm assuming this character-driven story happens.
No, but I think that it's not impossible to feel it, to notice a lacking in the script, but reward strengths.
I see this as having very good flashy special effects. I see it on that level of this movie had amazing special effects, really great. You know, the explosions were great, the makeup was great. The story was not good, but hey, I loved the effects, and I can give you points for the effects.
Fair enough.
And that's the same way I'm considering this. You know, it's not going to make me love your show, but I will say you did this one element right.
But let's see. Other thing, roundups. Okay, Joel McHale does pretty well. They could have used a little less of him because they needed to free up space.
Good performances all around.
Yep. Let's see. We've got Einstein slowly dying. That works out well.
Yeah.
It makes things seem more hopeless as Scully tries to deal with this problem on her own. Again, not quite great because the story isn't allowed to properly give her something to... I mean, other than obviously worry about the world ending.
Yeah.
There's not another dimension, and we needed another dimension. But yeah, there's that there. There's... oh, I remembered something important. Why did the smoking man let Miller take Mulder away? Because...
Why not?
I mean, he wants to save Mulder if he can, and there's no way he's going to save Mulder's life if Mulder leaves.
Well, he only wants to save Mulder's life if Mulder is going to say, I want you to save my life.
Yeah,
I think he's concluded at this point that he's not going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So...
It seems to me that someone who doesn't value lives would just, since he had the gun, just shoot Miller and say, okay, Mulder, you have more time. And just wait for him to die or change his mind.
I'd see him as somebody who wouldn't... He's not a gratuitous killer.
Mm-hmm.
He is a remorseless, calculated, intelligent killer. But he doesn't shoot people because he likes to shoot people.
Well, I mean, that's not what I'm saying.
Well, I think he would have concluded he's not going to, that it would accomplish nothing to kill Miller.
I mean, my point is the only thing that is of interest to him right now at all is Mulder saying, save me. And so there are no other, since Miller's going to die anyway, I'm saying the only thing that would motivate him to do anything at all is the desire to have Mulder have more time to surrender. And the only way to do that is to stop Miller from taking him.
And yet, I would argue that he's smart enough to know killing a person Mulder likes in front of him is going to make him less likely to work with you.
Yeah, but it's zero likelihood of working with him if Mulder is dead in a car.
He's got a phone.
Yeah, okay.
So, like, if Mulder changes his mind, he could probably tell Miller to turn back, or he could be... I'm willing to bet, because we didn't see him having to try to track down this guy's house. I'm willing to bet he knows the guy's phone number. He'd probably call the cigarette smoking man. Probably it's like the temporary number. Also, I liked this more than other times when it's like cigarette smoking man lives in this broken down apartment. Him having this very nice home seems appropriate.
Yeah.
Especially to his new role in the conspiracy.
For sure.
So...
Anything else?
Whereas the broken down apartment feels appropriate. Good job making me feel the thing. I'd say even in my ideal version, we would have all the Joel McHale bits. It's just we would cut out the fake out before Scully and Einstein figure out the true way to solve this problem. I'd just say they immediately go, "Oh, this is the real solution."
They had some fake out. It wasn't important.
Yeah, they would find it immediately and earlier, and then they'd get going, and we could see as they traveled the roads getting crowded, people going crazy, and we'd keep getting Joel McHale, and then we would also have the Mulder smoking man conversation. Is my ideal one. I can't think of anything else really to say.
Okay.
To sum it up, it was an incomplete story with a fuck finish, and I say fuck finish. That's not me just gratuitously using the word fuck. Kind of me using another wrestling term. A complete story with an incomplete finish, and I give it a 3 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still deciding.
I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. It hitched a bit of a ride on the rest of the miniseries. I sort of care what's going on to these characters. It didn't finish itself,
Yeah.
and that's a problem. But it has great strengths in showing a scary, changing world on like a visceral level, feeling dangerous and disorienting. And Mulder and Scully, it's fine.
I think we agree with the criticism of it. I think we just weight them differently.
Yeah, that's the difference. I sort of don't mind nearly as much. I was almost tempted to give it a 6. I decided against giving fractional grades. It's just a little too much.
I'm fine with fractions. But yeah.
Well, decimal grades. Completely different. Ugh. Decimal grades. Or I'd give it a 5.5.
Yeah.
But it could potentially, the reason why I'm hesitant is because it could potentially be a better story once the conclusion exists.
Once the conclusion exists, if I at very least know there is a conclusion and have some way to see what it is, I might revise my grade.
Exactly. But that, I feel like that goes against what I want to be my philosophy of criticism.
Yeah. With what I was given, it's a 3, and I can't give it any more because, well, I think we both felt they did a good job establishing the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think you care more about the end of the world than I do.
Yep.
And while we, also, they did threaten our characters, but I didn't feel like Mulder was doing anything proactive. I didn't feel Miller was doing anything proactive. And Einstein got sick so late and got immediately cured.
I mean, I got the sense, and they never actually went out and said this, but that somehow Mulder was preparing a trap for an assassin. But then it wasn't, although Miller tracked Mulder down, someone else was the assassin.
Yeah. So,
I mean, he was just sort of hanging out in this one place in South Carolina. He was primarying. He was going for the Democratic...
Mulder Miller 2016. Running on the Little Green Men Party platform.
But, yeah, so he's just hanging out there, I guess, and then eventually someone attacks him and he learns the location of the smoking man.
Yeah, well, I don't even know how... Yeah, well, no, him being attacked was in his apartment.
Oh, I thought he drove to...
He did. He was in his apartment, he got attacked, and he drove to South Carolina. It was the same apartment where...
Oh!
He was...
It was a weird... It was, non-sequential.
Yeah.
Okay, because I knew there were non-chronological elements, because the time that Mulder appeared, I can't remember the exact conflict, but he clearly couldn't have gotten there that quickly or whatever.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I put the attack when Mulder was just hanging out. Oh, I'm so stupid, because... You see, Mulder's apartment was trashed at the beginning, but I forgot about that, because then they never talked about it again.
Yeah, I was going through wondering why his apartment was trashed, so yeah.
I legitimately completely forgot. Should I be embarrassed? I don't know. Again, they were like, his apartment's trashed, and then never mentioned again, until it comes up again, and I didn't even notice.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, overall, I gave it a 3, you gave it a 5, maybe even a 5.5. And so that's it.
Yeah.
That is our video.
That's X-Files.
That is our...
I'm really excited for the puppet show.
Yeah, I look forward to our puppet show review, which will have little Sam and Matt puppets over this table we have here, which we'll just be talking about the episode.
Awesome.
All right.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.